that show that, again, the scene is where the EHR sends a request to the patient app to complete a screener, and then the completed questionnaire comes back.
Okay, sure. I have I'll do that on these last two tabs right there. Okay, I'll try and walk through. What do I have, Evelyn? Like 10 minutes, or how many minutes did you allocate for doing this?
Yeah,
Okay.
like 10, 15 minutes, I think.
Okay, yep. Help me, just keep an eye on the time for me, and if I'm going too slow, you just speed me up. Thanks. Okay, so for folks who haven't been, who don't have this picture burned into your the back of your mind yet, I will be working through this workflow where I'm going to be demonstrating 3 different roles. The EHR is red, the screening app over here is light blue, and the secondary user, just think of this as like the HIE that's going to ask for the screening information, or whatever is the secondary user, ask for the screening information and get that back. That's navy blue. So I will try to call out my hat color as I bounce through these tabs so that it'll help you follow the workflow. We'll begin by establishing a screening task. And this is going to be my last demo on Friday, Connect-a-thon 24, final demo of the day. Okay. And I am going to pick to do the WellRx screening revised. This screening has quite a few questions in it, but we did a trimmed version of it. And I will send this off to the screening app to initiate the workflow. And I just will mention that the workflow for this task includes the ability to do the screening on multiple patients. We're going to focus in on Betsy Smith Johnson, but it's really designed to be able to screen multiple patients at the same, folks that would be coming in maybe in a week from now in for their appointment or something like that. Now, this is with my red hat on. I'm going to change hats and go over to my screening app. This is the kind of the system that's managing those requests. And I will just, with that light blue hat on, I just received a request to screen those 2 patients. And I am going to act like Betsy Jones. So as I don't know if you guys caught it or not before, but we had some demo patients that were set up. We allowed folks to experience the automated identity proofing process that gives a NIST LOA, LOA 3 level identity check to make sure that people are who they say they are, so that identities are known. So this screening information is being sent out and it's intended for Betsy Jones. You want to know for sure that you're sending it to Betsy Jones, and if you're getting the response back, you want to be able to trust the identity of the person who you're getting the information back from. So what I'll do now is I'll just I've simulated that this is coming out to her mobile app, or in this case I'm using a web app just to expose the request link, and I will click on that and you'll see what could be rendered on a mobile phone or just a web app that I'm showing like this. And I just demonstrate that consent is first asked, that the people have the ability to say no to whether or not they want to share their information. But if they do, they can go forward. Let me see if I can make that a little bit bigger. Go forward and fill out a questionnaire like this. And we are going to fill this out that Betsy is not having trouble with her food insecurity, but she's not homeless, but she is having trouble finding or paying for rides. So she is going to say yes to that and submit that screening information. And it will go now back to the PMEHR, that red actor in the middle. And I will refresh my screen over on that dashboard so that you can see that task coming in. Hopefully it did come in. Let's see. Final. Here it is. It's in progress. What did I do? Let me look at the task details and see if I can figure this out. Oh, it's in progress because I had also asked to screen that other patient, and silly old Lisa Nelson didn't finish her screening yet, so the task itself is still open. But you can see that Betsy Jones did respond, and she she consented to sharing the information. And what's really important here is that you see I've exposed all of the FHIR resources that came along with that transaction: the patient, the consent, the questionnaire response. And Evelyn wanted me to, I think, Evelyn, this is that you're interested in seeing this, but this is the actual FHIR resource questionnaire response that is coded so that the you can see how all the questions inside here are carrying the LOINC codes, the answers themselves, and the IDs that are associated with the question. So this really is that aspect of discretely represented screening information. Now, the next thing that is going to happen is we want to show how that kind of screening data could enable situations where a patient is in a clinical care setting. And so I am going to just demonstrate. Now I'm back at that red hat, and I want to show how that screening information got brought in as if Betsy was going to see her primary care physician. So let's say the doctor is getting ready to see Betsy, and he looks for her in his work queue, and here she is. Just view this. Now, MaxMD is not an EMR. We really built this as kind of a demonstration capability to show off the specifications that are being written in the SDOH CCIG. But what you have here is just demonstration that these prior notes, progress note, referral note, these are all here available inside Betsy's chart. And I am going to create a note and just sort of take you through that workflow. Again, inside a real EHR, it might look totally different than this, but these are the demonstration points. It shows that the screening information that Betsy has completed is available because it came in and was attached to her record. It's right here. The doctor could view that and very rapidly see that these are not problems for Betsy, but look, there's an issue going on right here about transportation. So in his couple of minutes that he has with her, that might be an area where he or she, the physician, would want to ask some more questions and dig in when they're doing their history and physical, their examination. So let's say the doctor starts their work with the patient. This is just going to walk you through capturing the SDOH data as the FHIR IG recommends. So I'm just going to click through some stuff pretty quickly. This is going to be a social history type of observation. And this is about, I'm going to pick this, we'll focus in on this transportation problem. And the doctor, after talking with the patient, the doctor saw the screening information. They've talked with the patient a little bit more about their situation, what's going on, and there really is a transportation problem. It actually started back in March when the patient became unemployed because of COVID. The jobs just dried up. There's no local public transit. She can't get to her appointments anymore, and that's what's going on. So now the clinician has recorded their clinical observation, and they may want to put a problem on the patient's problem list as something that's a health concern that needs to be addressed. So I'm actually going to record this. Let's say that the medical issues of the day, maybe she was also there for asthma or diabetes or something. These are problems that the doctor's working on. Let's record this as a health concern. And it is about transportation problems. And we know that we're kind of in terms of the provenance of this, is the doctor saying, I confirmed this in the visit today. And in talking with the patient, I know that this really got started back in March. And so I want to record that the onset date was there. And the evidence, oh, it's doing so good. Let's see if I can refresh here.
Or Lisa, maybe as you go through this,
Sorry.
or if you don't have to go through all the things, I think you've generated the referral note, right? Already?
I have a referral note at the end, but I don't know what it will. Let me see what would happen if I let me cancel out of that, and let me just see if I can generate the referral without completing the rest of those things. So let's say I'm going to do the referral. This is going to be a referral for social services, and let's say that I think that would like to see, I forget what I was going to do for this, just like a further assessment of her health and social care needs. So that's what I'm reaching out for, and the reason that I'm doing this is because I know that Betsy has some transportation problems, and I'll just document that she needs reliable rides to appointments. And this is an active referral that I am ordering, and maybe I want to say that this is really an urgent thing that needs to be taken care of, and I would like this to be, in my community we have a local ride support program, and so I will send that out. The generating of the referral note, just try and go through this quick, Evelyn, but I won't bounce through into all the resources, demonstrates that we're creating FHIR resources. The composition pulls together all of the underlying pieces, the patient information, the clinical diagnoses, the things that support making the referral, the service request, and we also use a dollar document operation so that a FHIR document can be generated around all of this. We also have the option of sort of memorializing that moment in a CDA document, so we can create a persistent binary resource that is pointed to by a document reference, another FHIR resource. So all of this is FHIR, but in the end, encapsulated within those FHIR resources, we also have that persistent snapshotted CDA referral note, and the referral note not only has the information of who the referral is being reached out to, but you can see that we carried information. Unfortunately, I think because I missed that step, it doesn't yet have the SDOH information in it, but it's supposed to have the screening attached right there. And I think I will close. I'm going to close with just seeing if I can demonstrate how to retrieve that with a communication request. So from the navy blue actor, we're going to demonstrate that an HIE or a secondary user could request information. It could be a payer that's trying to maybe search for gaps in care, that kind of use case. We're going to make a communication request, and to speed things up, rather than requesting that FHIR data, I'm going to try and see if I can pull up the progress note. So I will ask for the medical practice to give me all of Betsy Jones's progress notes, or to return the most recent progress note to me. And by making that request, I go back to the EHR, the red actor, and let's see if the task came in. Here's the please return requested documentation. I am going to query for that and pull up my most recent progress note that would have been completed at the end of that visit. And here you can see that even though we are working with fire resources, that the beauty of also persisting things in CDA documents is that many recipient systems today can't yet utilize the fire resources, and so we do have the option of pulling back a document, could be a referral note or a progress note, as a CCDA document. And I'm just going to show here transportation that transportation problem is recorded in the social history section, and I will sign the document, which encapsulates it with a digital signature, so that if anything were disturbed in this file, anything even one single bit were to change, then the signature would be invalid at the receiving system, and that's an important aspect, again, of data provenance. I'm going to complete this transaction. These, of course, would be automated steps, but I'm just showing this for demo purposes. So now this system is responding back, and the navy blue system that had requested it to begin with, let's see how we did. I got a response back. Take a look. And so this receiving system can both view and validate that digital signature. And this is the assurance here that that document came through, signed by the physician who signed off on it, and it includes not only the encounter information and procedure information, but right along with it. That's it for me.
So Lisa, can you show, so the next step is sending the referral to another system besides the MaxMD system. So this is where we can, I know we don't have initially in our scenario, the referral would be sent to an HCBS operating system. And this, or it could be because you referred them out to the local ride company, that somehow it gets sent to the HCBS or the Medicaid office. And we show you posting or writing to the HIE, so to the hub, and maybe this is where
so right now in the background, Evelyn, and the reason we were sort of delayed to get here is we have been trying to write a document reference with the attachment. We tried writing a fire composition out to the hub system, and we're having connectivity issues completing that. Nancy Lush's group could take a look at their system and for Betsy Jones and see. We were able to post the fire composition, but we were not able to post the document reference. The transaction failed, so that's going to have to be looked at. But here is the referral note that we are attempting to share with the hub, and hopefully we'll get that worked out in the background.
Yeah, we can do that. I think outside of the demo, we'll be glad to do it. We did reset our database between 1 and 1:30. If you were trying to write during that time, that may have been the reason.
It was well, when was I delayed? So it may have been. I'll have them try that again in the background. But I think we could move on, Evelyn, while we attempt to get this referral note posted into the hub.
Okay, so so can we jump then to Alterum to show, so again, we're going to, in the background, there's a referral sent to the HCBS. They go back and they conduct an initial screening, determine that Betsy is eligible for HCBS services, and therefore she can, the next step is conducting an assessment. So I don't know, Forrest, if you can show how, I know I don't know if you can generate a functional assessment, but go through that process of what the assessment would look like, and then the completed ELTSS plan.
Sure. I won't be able to demonstrate what it will look like, but I can show what it looks like when it's loaded to the server, to the ELTSS server.
Great.
Okay, hold on here. Okay, can you see my screen okay?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, this is Forrest White from Alterum. We're demonstrating the social service worker who was the care coordinator for Betsy Smith Johnson, who was making an assessment Also, I guess, based on the referral from
Yes.
previous system.
Conduct an assessment, yes.
Yes. So once that assessment's done and the data is entered into the EHR, again, which we're not demonstrating, it's kind of the magical black box in this case, it could then be uploaded into the ELTSS Fire IG server. And that's what you're seeing here is a demonstration of a Happy Fire server providing that view. So on the left-hand side, you'll see the resources, the fire resources that were used for Betsy Smith Johnson's care plan, ELTSS care plan. So that's what the numbers, the little gray circles with the numbers in them reference, you know, how many of those resources are in her plan. So again, this is the user interface for the Happy Fire server. So there are some functionality in that that can review some of that data. So for example, we could display Betsy Smith Johnson's patient information. I'm going to move kind of quickly on that just to give you a demonstration. So here's her identifier. And if we look at that for Betsy Smith Johnson, and again, this is going to be in a JSON format down here in the raw message. So this is the data that's in the system that was uploaded into this server. We could show you in a viewer what that looks like, essentially in a little bit better format than what you saw a moment ago. So it's Betsy Smith Johnson, her phone number, female, her birth date. And so all of these resources can be displayed in a viewer, certainly. So that's what we're showing here, just because it looks a little bit cleaner than trying to look at the JSON source. So that is the data that we have prepared and ready to push to the data hub. And I don't think we're demonstrating that just yet.
Forrest, can you show where you see the transportation need or service? Does it show?
Yes.
Yeah.
I believe that's part of the service request. Oh, sorry, I can show that in the service here.
Yeah, it should be under assess need and service.
Sorry.
I think it was in 2.
There.
For which part?
It was the second one that you.
Oh, sorry, here. Yes.
Okay, great. Sorry, do you want to show that? Because all right, so thank you, Forrest, and this is really helpful. You know, we'll have functional assessment. It sounds there was an assessment conducted. We'll see it more when the PASIO team conducts their functional assessments. Well, we don't have a FASI assessment now, but eventually, all this data, it's really to show. And I think, you know, as Lisa highlighted, this is coded data. So all of these. So because it is standardized at the data capture, you know, at the social risk and social need level as part of the patient encounter, it will follow through. So all these systems, so this is an, you know, HCBS system, not a clinical system, it could understand that language. And so just, you know, for those following through of why we want to support both health and human service interoperability is now that this system can understand, you know, it doesn't have to manually add it or code it, the data would follow through. So here, the service will be, you know, the HCBS will include non-emergency transportation. Okay, any questions for Forrest? No. Okay, so then now do we move on to it moving to the hub? Or you've said that that's already, so the activity's gone, that it's posted to the hub?
No, it wasn't yet, actually. We can do that. I apologize. I thought there was a couple steps in between that you moved to, but if you want to continue, we can pause a second. I'll go back to the share my screen.
Yep, we're going through the scenes. So scene 1 is that the ELTSS plan is created in the HCBS system, and then the HCBS system can write it or share it, send it to the hub, so it's available for the broader care team and the person to access.
Okay. That being the case, I will transfer, since I talked through what's on the server itself, I will transfer to Ed Castagna, my colleague from Altarum, who can explain the transfer of the data.
Great.
So all yours, Ed, if you can share your screen.
Sure. Let's see, I guess we don't need to show that the patient data isn't already at this CLTSS plan isn't already yet on the Data Hub, and we're going to be pushing it over to the Data Hub.
Correct.
So it typically, a client, which I'm behaving as a client in the computer client server terms, is able to create a transaction which then can send it over to the hub. And basically it kind of looks as if it's a put of a specific transaction, so that we're just, and curl is just a command that puts things out to, oh, I'm sorry, this is a post. And the individual stuff inside of there found as puts, but we're just taking an XML formatted file and we're going to be pushing it over to the Data Hub, and we'll review the results out of that. So are we ready to send it over to the Data Hub?
Yes.
All right. Yeah, well, in this exciting world that we're in, a sender can actually send data over to a whole nother system, for instance, the data manager, a Data Hub. And within a short period of time, that transaction is responded to. And look, we have another file over here, which is the response from the Data Hub as to how successful. Should I check and see if we were successful at sending it?
Sure.
All right, so we did a little bit of wait, so it took a little bit of real time in order to get there. But then the response back from the hub was, okay, well, look at this. It's all that data that you sent us. And it's just reinforcing the fact that this bundle, which is an HL7 transaction bundle, I think we can see that up at the top. So HL7 FHIR has this construct called a bundle, and this will be a bundle of a typed transaction as it's sending it over. And it has a bunch of resources, including the care plan, for instance, for this specific IG. I think that's it for, you know, how we're filling out scene one, and then we should be able to see the data appearing now over on the data manager.
Great, thank you. So Nancy, are you able to demonstrate seeing the data?
Sure, I can demonstrate that if you'd like. Share my screen. Sorry, let's get this moved. Okay, so here's an example of maybe an app that the hospital might be using to look at that data at the beginning of the care. And of course, we have all the other information, but I'm going to jump down specifically to the care plan and show that all the data that Forrest just went through is now currently received at the hub. And I can go through this now if you'd like, or we can go through it later.
So let's go through it when we go through the PASIO, but this is to show, you know, scene one is that we're not jumping into scene two yet, that, you know, ELTSS plan is created, it's sent to the hub as a copy, and then HCBS services begin in the home. So that concludes our scene one, but it's good to see that. And I know if we can, it'd be great too, if we get to scene 9, we see the referral, just the ability for, you know, Nancy, for your hub to get data from another system. But with that, I know I'm looking at the time. I'm going to transition us then to the PASIO team, because now we'll start our scene 2.
Nancy, this is Lisa. I just wanted to mention that I'm chatting with you in the background in case you haven't seen that.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so I'm going to transition to the PASIO team to kick off their scene 1 and demo. I think Ty is going to be recording. And this way, so again, we are going to show transitions, and PASIO team, you let us know if, I know you have transitioned from hospital to SNF, SNF to home health. If you feel you have time to do all. If not, we can focus on hospital and home health. How do you all feel you can do?
Yeah, we should be able to get through it, I think. So May, do you want to kick us off?
Sure, no problem. Should I share my screen?
Sure.
Okay. Okay. Just as a level set, I decided to show the system diagram to show what we're going to be displaying here. In this case, we are the role of the hospital that will be filling out the assessment for Betsy Smith Johnson. Just as a quick summary of what to expect, we're going to be selecting an EHR patient, selecting a particular PAC assessment, completing and reviewing the PAC assessment.
We're not seeing your screen, or at least I'm not.
You're not? Okay, let me start again. Let's see how this works. Huh. Are you seeing it?
Yes,
Yes.
thank you.
Okay, start again. Okay, so at this part of the demo, Betsy Smith Johnson is in a hospital, and for this workflow, we'll be querying out to the data element library. In this case, we have a pseudo-del. We'll be filling out the assessment, converting it to a structured data capture form, and then sending it off to an EHR. It's just a quick flow of what this demo will do. It will select the EHR patient, select the PAC assessment, complete and review the PAC assessment, and then submit it to the EHR. So here is the application. You can see at the top that we're going to be selecting the patient, and then we're going to be selecting the form. In this case, I'm going to be querying for Betsy Johnson. This is her current patient ID. I put this on the side so that you could see that there are transactions happening at the same time. If I go back, again, some of these questionnaires are long. So in the interest of time, I basically fast forwarded so that we picked the long-term care hospital admission data set. And in this case, you're going to see the end of the form. You'll see that it is 100% done. And at the very end, we're going to be looking at the preview of it. You can see this kind of rendering. The idea is that the provider will be reviewing the answers, and if they're happy with the answers, they're going to submit. At that point, there are three options. You can either save a local copy or you can export it to the EHR itself. And to show you in this case that the EHR that we're actually pointing to is a temporary one at this time, but you're going to see that there's no questionnaire responses right now with a total of 0. So I'm going to be clicking on exporting to the EHR. More activity is going on. There's going to be an acknowledgement for send. And if I go back to the questionnaire and I look, you now see one questionnaire response, which demonstrates that this is the admission assessment and related to Betsy Johnson. And that's it for me. Any questions? Okay. I guess I'm handing it off to the next phase of scene 2, which is the transition to the EHR.
Great. Yeah, thank you. So, share my screen. Hopefully you will see it. All right. So the way we have it here, so this is the hospital EHR system. So right now we don't have any functional status or cognitive status, you know, of recent timing. So what we're going to do here is, so I'm taking this information here, which is what May just wrote out, and I'm going to push that into our EHR system or post it. And so I will do that here, and it takes a few seconds. So what this is doing is just taking all this information, putting it through the FHIR API that we put on to the EHR system to put all that stuff in. And so it's writing, it's taking that structured data capture form, converting it into Passio observation resources, extracting the data out, and then posting all of those resources into the data hub. So you can see this succeeded. And if the demo gods are smiling, when I redo this, it won't work. So let's see. Just a second. There we go. So you can see now that there are 2 new functional assessments for May 1st, the mobility discharge assessment and the self-care discharge performance. And there was a chem assessment done. And you can click on these and you will get the answers to all of the questions that have been submitted to as part of that assessment, for example. Sometimes this takes a little bit of time. So here's all the questions and answers that occurred during that assessment, and you can also see the same thing on the CAM side as well. So that's now all in the data manager, and so I think then Nancy or anybody else would be able to access the same information as well. And I think that concludes scene 2, or our scene 2. Your scene 3.
Yeah, scene 2 for us too. Yeah, for care coordinator. Your scene. Okay. So what's scene next? Your scene 3?
So next we go to scene 3, and I think that's back to Alterum.
Yes. So
I'm trying to stop. Sure.
Okay. All right. So in scene 3, the patient has moved from the hospital to the SNF. And in that transition, the SNF is going to want to pull that data from the data hub that was inserted by the home and community-based services over at the care manager, and then again from the hospital. So what I'm going to display, actually, sorry, I think I'm going to have Ed display his screen for the actual get of the data. So Ed, if you can display your screen for that. And then once Ed has done his transaction, the pull, I will display the server. So go ahead, Ed. Are you on mute?
The unmute moved up there when you're a presenter. Can anyone hear me and see the screen?
Yes.
Yep.
Right. Thank you very much. All right, so again, we're talking about talking back and forth between servers. So this isn't a server to server, this is a server to client. The client's going to be reading all the data from the data hub. And it's going to be performing like 3 steps. It can get all the data, then parse all of it, and then put it all over to the server. So due to some logistics of the process, it takes quite a while to do the parsing. So I'm going to show you the process of getting a set of data from the data hub. So there's it's a script. And the arguments on it are where I'm going to get the data from. I'm going to be getting the data from the Azure Web Sites Net /open, which is the endpoint. I'm giving it a local name, just so if I'm building assets, it's located at the manager. And then I'm going to be pushing it out to our Passio SNF server, and I'm naming that Passio SNF. So the getter part of it, no, let me do a minus the X over here. So it shows the actual commands that it's doing. All right, it's actually going to be reading resources in from the data hub. And, you know, this is no long or short enough. You know, this is actually going to be a couple of minutes for this to finish even. But it's going to be pulling out all of the all of the resources that are found on the FHIR server at this point in time. And eventually going to be parsing them into individual resources that can be used and pushed over to the the parsing part of it takes a while, so I'm just going to take the shortcut and say this is eventually what we're parsing it into. It'll be parsing it into the files, observation, Connect-a-thon assessment, hospital, blah, blah, blah. And then after it's parsed out, which takes quite a while, it pushes it into the server, just using a putter. So it can, right now, I issued this command earlier on today. So we're going to be showing the data that was acquired earlier on today, which looks a lot like the data which we're expecting to be there. So I'm going to put it back to Forrest, if that's okay.
Yep, thank you, Ed. So once I get the screen back here, I will share briefly. This will only take just a second here. Let me know when you can see the screen.
Where's that?
Yep.
Okay, so this is the SNF server, the ELTSS Passio SNF server, where we've pulled the data back from the data hub. And as you can see,
might be on the floor.
pardon me?
Please be on mute.
Sorry. Okay, so this is the SNF server again. As you see on the left-hand side, you can see the resources are populated, so the numbers have changed, you know, certainly from what the base server was at the SNF. And again, we can view the data in there. Of course, this data bar is getting in my way here. Hold on. The toolbar for the Zoom session has blocked my tab. There we go. So I can go to the Passio server, SNF server, do a find. We see Betsy Smith Johnson. I can do a view. And this shows the patient resource again. It pulled her information. And then we have the care plan as well. Again, like we saw before, it has the observations. Specifically, in particular, the hospital's MOCA that was done, right? The assessment. So again, this is the data that's now in the SNF's Passio server. So that's pretty much demonstrates the movement of that data from the data hub to the SNF server. I think I'll pass it along to Dave, I think, for some additional discussion on the assessments at the SNF. Or is it Nancy? I think you're on mute again, Nancy.
I think it's Alex next.
Ah, okay, sorry. So Alex is on mute.
Hey, Dave, you're on mute.
Dave may be double muted.
Yeah, it's at the top of your screen when you're in display mode, I think.
Okay, yeah, there I am. Sorry about that. All right, no, I do not want to update. All right, so so here's the skilled nursing facility, and so you can see that it sees the materials, the assessments that were done before at the hospital. So what we want to do is we want to write the new assessment data, and this, again, this would be done through the PAC assessment app, but we won't belabor you with that. So this is a new assessment data piece of data that I'm going to send, and my machine just locked up. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to send that to the skilled nursing, the skilled nursing facility. Again, it's going, the EHR system is going to take this information, the structured data capture from the assessment, convert it into the observation-based Passio resources, and push that off, post it actually to the data manager. So if I go now back to the skilled nursing facility, and if the demo gods are smiling, and if I refresh, now I see these new items that are dated today, again with the CAM assessment, self-care, and also a new cognitive status. So so that's the end of this scene, and the next scene will be at the home health agency. And Alex, are you on? If not, I can show you that too. So what we have here now also is we have this is the transfer summary information that the home health agency is gets. So if I refresh the latest things from here, I can see that this now has all of the information so far for Nancy in both in the hospital and the SNF. And you can click on these and look at them in each individual one. The other thing that it also has, I can also go into the care plans and it will be able to display the care plan as well that was put in initially back several scenes ago. So again, sort of it needs transportation, needs health, nutrition, education for diabetes, the goals, the activities, wants to wants to dance at the upcoming wedding, and so forth. So, with this, the home health agency now is everything that's happened to Betsy Smith Johnson along the way. And with that, I will hand it off to Nancy to finish us off with our next scene, showing how Betsy and her family can get access to all of this information.
Thanks, Dave. Nancy? Oh, there we go.
Okay. All right. So as we've just seen, Betsy has moved from facility to facility during this episode of care. She has multiple chronic conditions, and it's critical that each care provider has complete, accurate information at the point of care. But we also need to keep Betsy and her family engaged in her care and informed on her current status. At any point in her journey, Betsy can access the current copy of her clinical data. This helps Betsy engage in her care, provides any answers or details that she may have missed during her discharge meetings, and provides the opportunity to formulate any questions that she may have. So I'm just going to take a few minutes and walk through all the information that's available both to Betsy and really any clinical provider along the way. So on the demographics page, we have all the key demographics about Betsy, but we also have this detail that one of her emergency contact is her son, Charles. He's also her guardian as well as her son. And she also has a daughter who happens to live in a different part of the country, but she's also very concerned about her mother's health and would really like to get access to that data as well. All right, so obviously it's key that her current medications are clear to everybody and communicated. We have the list of her conditions. When Forrest earlier wrote that ELTSS plan, as part of that plan, he also had assessed needs, and we indicate all of the assessed needs that she had, including her needs for transportation, as Lisa demonstrated earlier. And then when we go, I'm going to jump down to the care plan for a minute and just kind of walk through that. So this is the complete ELTSS care plan. So again, it talks about what the plan is and what it's doing. It tells us who the actual person is providing the plan, that created this plan on behalf of Betsy with his contact information, and what the funding source is for this particular plan. Betsy has a couple of strengths. Say she's able to manage her bills and independent walking with a cane. She has particular preferences that the CLTSS standard wants to display. She also has personal goals. So when Betsy first sees this plan, she's really happy that her planner Mark included those personal goals for her because they're very important. You know, above all, she wants to dance at her son's upcoming wedding. And they have a plan for each one of their personal goals. So she'll be performing exercise to improve her balance skills, and she'll be working on her mobility in order to successfully dance at her son's wedding. She also has, they've assessed, as we saw earlier, certain needs, and this part of the plan explains, you know, what those assessed needs are. And below that, we have the activities for each one of these assessed needs. Well, it doesn't show it here. She also needed a bathtub rail when they evaluated her home when she transitioned from the SNF back to the her home health agency. So we have her son, Charles, providing, you know, installing that wall rail for her in the tub that, you know, there's no additional cost for because he's doing that on her behalf. But she also has other services provided as part of this plan, and that includes both the start and end dates, the frequencies, the costing information, and who specifically is providing that information, in addition to a kind of comment that the service provider will be reaching out to her prior to coming to pick her up for each of those transportation services. We have the signatures for each one of the people involved in this. The signature here is an icon, but if this were to be a real system, it would actually show the signature. We also have risk assessments that have done for Betsy. So she's at risk for falling, and also she has depressive disorder. And then we have the risk management plan of how that is being addressed. And again, we're showing the questionnaire that was done as part of this assessment. Then moving on to the PASIO assessment information. So, so you can see we haven't written all of this in this particular scenario. So we have a subset of what we've seen in some of the other demos. I can jump over to that in a minute. But basically we have functional status. So for this functional status, we can see each of the specific questions that were asked and the answer to each question. And then we also provide a summary of each of these. So when you have multiple questions, this is the answer to that particular question at each of the interval time periods. So the same thing is available for self-care. I'll jump down to the summaries where it's available. So again, we're just showing the question and how that particular question was answered over time. I'm going to show you some other screens here to kind of put that in perspective. Same thing for the cognitive. And in the case of our BIMS, we have the detailed answers to those particular questions. And then we're also showing the overall score for the BIMS. And in the case of both the PHQ-9 and the MoCA, we have a top level score that we show in the main record. And again, you can drill down and see the answers to each of the questions. And the MoCA does not have child. And show that it does not actually have any children records as well. So these are the records that have been exchanged at the various points in time. At any point in time, our patient Alice has access to this, our patient Betsy has access to this information, but the clinicians have access to the same information. I want to jump ahead just a little bit here. So this doesn't represent the data this is the data, that we just wrote to the server. This is another copy that we wrote earlier that just has a little bit more complete assessments had we actually gone through the full user story. And to give you an idea, some of these are also summarized over time. So the particular questions here are showing longer questions, the full question, versus our summary sheets are showing the shortened version of the question. And we had some interesting discussions earlier with clinicians on, what works and what doesn't work. This shows how, how they transitioned over time, and our trend shows how they're improving for that particular data point over time. All right, so back to Betsy for a moment. So Betsy also has a son, Charles, who's involved in providing support to his mother. And both Betsy and Charles want to be updated on the patient's current medical status. So the patient share system includes the ability for Betsy to easily share her medical record with all of the users of her choice. Betsy has created electronic consent, which allows her son to have full access, which I think I have here. So here's an example of a consent that she's created to share her data with Charles. And if you, it looks very much like similar consents, but basically she has chosen to share all of her information with her son. She can change the time period of that, and she also could revoke that at any point in time for any of the people that she decides to share with. So this allows her son, Charles, to log into the system as himself and have secure access to Betsy's most recent medical data at any point in time. So also, the data hub that is demonstrated today is a read-write FHIR API. At the start of our scenario, Betsy's current medical status is written to the data hub. As she transitions through each point of care, her most current complete medical record can be reviewed by each care provider. At each point, our clinician can then update her medical record to reflect any changes or additions. This demonstrates the patient record traveling with the patient so that the most complete current medical record is always available when that patient is receiving care. 1 second. Sorry. It should not go without notice that this track has also demonstrated that the FHIR API is used in a read-write use case, which is basically enabling dynamic, seamless data exchange across care providers. So this will enable better care for our patient with multiple chronic issues. At the same time, this will reduce provider burden in sharing data while engaging both the patient and their family in improving the patient's health. And I think that's the last.
So Nancy, no, thank you. Were you able to see the referral note?
Honestly, that was happening while we were doing our presentation, and I was involved in that, so I haven't gone back to Lisa to help debug to figure out why that is. So we haven't gone to figure out if it's being written, and I'm not even sure what resource she's writing to, so I have to check that.
Okay, no, thank you. I think helpful because for us too is being able to connect. Lisa's system created a screener, different types. So also acknowledging that what you're showing here are functional assessments that are administered. They're all standardized, but they're administered by the provider themselves, right? While the screening, the SDOH or social risk screening is sent by the EHR, but it's filled out by the person in their own words. So it's just a different administration of it, but the workflow still is the same. They still build off the FHIR questionnaire.
Right, and I think this one, the ELTS folks can actually tell me, I think this particular questionnaire is also filled out by the patient, is that correct? Maybe somebody from the ELTSS group can clarify that.
Sorry, triple muted. Yes, that is correct. The patient would fill out is answering those questions.
Yes, so yeah, so for us, I don't know, I guess, yeah, we're at 3:25, so to conclude us going through the scenes, but it would be great if we could show the patient app, being able to access from the hub, not only like the transactions for the Passio, but also, at least the e-referral. So it looks like there might be a hiccup, or I don't know if that's something that you want to troubleshoot now, Lisa and Nancy together.
I put information in the chat, but I'm not sure that Nancy's group is going to be able to process it, rapidly enough to respond to that. It might be possible that there's information already stored on Nancy's hub that she could demonstrate the patient having access to that without it necessarily being the referral that we just generated.
Okay.
So we actually haven't discussed even, what that referral looks like. So I just don't know enough about it. But I'll follow up with the information.
I thought you wanted it as a CDA document, Nancy. The transaction bundle that we're trying to send to your server is has a document reference with its associated or referenced resources, and the CCDA referral note is in the binary attachment.
All right, so it probably, if it has been written to the hub successfully, it's probably there. Does anyone else on the team have an app that can read that reference document and display it?
It hasn't written successfully, so the
Okay.
transaction to do the post is the thing that's failing, and I put a couple of links in the chat to you to give you some background information on how to troubleshoot that.
Yep. So I get it. I just haven't looked at it yet.
Yeah,
but,
I know.
But let's get it. If we can get it written, while everybody's on, can I ask, is there another, I don't know that we can read a CDA document. We haven't done that here in this particular app, but perhaps, is there anybody else that might demo it once we get it written to the hub successfully? That would be interesting to finish up for our Connect-a-thon work if somebody else can do that. Anybody? I mean, Lisa,
Nancy,
do you have an app that if you
I think we also wrote the service request, which is the fire version of a referral. You know, you could just, I don't know if anybody wants to just query, wants to demonstrate just querying for what information is available for Betsy.
Yeah, did you do it as a service request associated with a care plan?
We wrote just the service request.
Okay.
So it would be associated with Betsy. So
Yeah.
it would be the
So-
subject of the service request.
Right. We should, you know, right now we're handling the ELTSS. So the ELTS has these service requests, but they're part of a care plan and they're referenced in the care plan. Yeah.
Yes, so that's an app. So for the scene one, the referral is before a plan is created. So it's to initiate the assessment activities.
Right.
Yeah,
So-
through Postman, I wasn't able to get the service request, but it gave me an error.
Yeah, I think it's because she's saying right now it's not writing. But Dave, so that's one way we could do it is once we figure out why it's not writing, we'll sort that out, get it working, and then you can demonstrate it with Postman, or I could demonstrate it with Postman, or whatever we'd like to do there. Okay.
Okay, well, actually, this is our wrap up.